that sounds where I'd have him. Cusp of top 10 or late top 10, somewhere 9, 10, 11, somewhere in that range. I think that's where he belongs, coming off last season.
So, Johnny Mac, one other thing I wanted to run you by in this opening segment before we get to Mike Gill, and this seems to be I'm starting to see it a lot on social media right now, and I just want to get your perspective and what your opinion is on this. PFF ranks Jalen Hurts ninth overall quarterback in the NFL. To top it off, Dan Orlovsky, I don't know if you saw that clip of him on Pat McAfee's show. He kind of, didn't have Jalen Hurts above Trevor Lawrence. He says Jalen Hurts needs to reprove it, almost like a top 15 type of ranking. And Emmanuel Acho earlier in the week says he's good, not elite, not good enough to get you to a Super Bowl. Just where do you have Jalen Hurts ranked? I think PFF at 9 is appropriate when you look at the guys they have in front of him. Mahomes, Lamar Jackson 2, Joe Burrow 3, Josh Allen 4, Justin Herbert 5, Dak Prescott 6, Matt Stafford 7, Aaron Rodgers 8, Jalen Hurts 9, CJ Stroud 10. That's their top 10. I just want to get your opinion on where you have Jalen Hurts ranked.
I haven't done a ranking recently, so I'm just going off
Just
the top
roughly,
of my head. So that sounds where I'd have them. Cusp of top 10 or late top 10, somewhere 9, 10, 11, somewhere in that range. I think that's where he belongs, coming off last season. Some of the guys, when you talk about Dan, I mean, Dan was obviously a former quarterback. Um, Sometimes I don't get those guys who have this wild gesticulation from,
right?
oh, he's great one year, he's not great, especially somebody who played the position. And I don't know where Dan had him coming off the Super Bowl season. I assume it was higher than he has him now, and that's okay. But if you're like 2 and then you're not in the top 10, I don't think that's very credible because and certainly my point with quarterbacks more than Emmanuel, they understand that it takes other stuff. You can't do it by yourself.
Right.
And generally, when Patrick Mahomes doesn't win the Super Bowl, if that ever happens again, or Tom Brady didn't win the Super Bowl, that didn't mean they were playing poorly necessarily. I would say Tom Brady's best team, he didn't even win the 16-0 team. That was the best team he ever had, the best he's ever played, the best team the Patriots ever had, and they didn't win the Super Bowl. That's strange to me when somebody like that does it. Not as strange when somebody like Emmanuel Acho does it because he was a linebacker, and let's be honest, his job is to get engagement and make people interested, and I think that plays into it a little bit as well. But I think right now he's, 9, 10, 11, somewhere in that range. And there are guys, you mentioned PFF. I didn't even know they put it out until you just said it. There's some guys behind him you could argue should be ahead of him.
Yeah,
CJ
like
Stroud
CJ
coming off
Stroud's a close one.
last
Yeah.
season. Jordan Love coming off a great first season. Brock Purdy, our old buddy Jody Mack would certainly say he belongs ahead of him.
Come on.
Even
I think Brock Purdy's great. I mean, come on. I don't think he's a better football player than Jalen Hurts.
No, either do I. I'm just saying there's you can make an argument.
Yeah,
though.
I get it.
Jared Goff as well. Jared Goff's way too low. My God, 16. That guy's criminally underrated.
Yeah, he really is.
But
I would say again on him, I don't know if I see it from the eye test doesn't tell me he's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Is he playing great? Yeah, I think he's top.
He's the new Kirk Cousins.
It's good comparison.
And Kirk's 15th. Now Kirk is 36 and coming off a torn Achilles. So, but when he was healthy and when he's playing well, he was really good. If you look at Jared Goff, he's that same type of guy. I mean, there's very few quarterbacks in this league that can make the window throws that Jared Goff does. But for whatever reason, people value different things now. To me, he's criminally underrated, as I said. But the top guys, Mahomes, Lamar, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and those to me would be the top 5, not in that particular order. Obviously, I'd have Patrick first.
Yeah.
I'm not putting Jalen Hurts in that category. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I'm with you on that. But the one thing I will say that bothers me about it, and I'm with you. I'm not going to go that Jalen is one of those top 5 guys. I think he's close, but he's not there. They don't give Jalen any benefit of the doubt, though. Like, he takes one small step backwards, and now all of a sudden his rankings plummeted. Meanwhile, a guy like, I know Joe Burrow's got great talent, but like, he was out all last year too. Josh Allen has had his problems. Dak Prescott hasn't won a playoff game in 8 years, or hasn't gone to a conference final in 8 years. Matt Stafford, yeah, he's a great quarterback, but he hasn't been great since the Super Bowl. Like, all these quarterbacks get the benefit of the doubt. Jalen has one off year, and it's like, oh, drop. Maybe it's because they don't think he possesses the inherent talent of some of those guys, which I think is fair. That's why Aaron Rodgers is up there. But that bothers me a little bit.
Yeah, Aaron, I should have mentioned he's in a different category because of his age, and
he could be one of the best quarterbacks to ever touch a
football.
Yeah,
he is. He's the best. I always say Aaron Rodgers. Nobody's ever played the position at a higher level. Now, greatest of all time, you have to win Super Bowls and all that kind of stuff. So that's a different equation. But just from at his highest peak, nobody ever played the position at a higher level than Aaron Rodgers. So he's a little bit different. Obviously, he's age and coming off an injury. But yeah, no, I think you got your Eagles glasses on there, Xander. I mean, you got I just mentioned a couple of them. And Jared Goff coming off his contract, especially. You don't think the Detroit fans think their quarterback's disrespected? And years at Brock Purdy. I mean, let's be honest about Brock Purdy, and I'm with you. I think Jalen Hurts is better. But he's got the opposite problem because he was a 7th round pick. Nobody believes in him. His, completion percentage, part of it obviously is the head coach and the scheming and the playmakers. But he has a tough time climbing these lists, even though obviously I don't know what he finished in the MVP race last year, but it was certainly high. Yeah, so a lot of guys. Matthew Stafford has been. I used to. The 2 biggest quarterbacks we probably argued about, Jody and I, were Kirk Cousins and Matthew Stafford. He thought they both stunk, and I'm like, I mean, Matthew Stafford was so good for so long on a bad team, and I get it. People think, can he elevate that terrible talent? No, he proved he couldn't elevate that terrible talent, although he had a couple outlier years where they made runs and things like that. But people in the league would just rave about him, talk about how good he was. And, when he got a supporting cast, you've kind of seen it. And unfortunately, it's late in his career. He's not even as good as he was. The same thing with Kirk, supporting cast and all that kind of stuff. Now, with Cousins, I would say part of it's his own fault because he's Andrew Brandt, first ballot Hall of Famer, and he never was willing to take even a penny less to potentially help build that supporting cast. So I think that's a legitimate criticism of Kirk Cousins. But as far as playing the position, yeah, again, that guy's unbelievably underrated. So there's a lot of quarterbacks that you can look at and say, and it all comes down to team success. And the Eagles, when they were in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts was getting his flowers, and they're coming off an historic collapse. So now he's taking some hits. That's just what it is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
By the way, I think he hasn't moved. He's been, bottom top 10 quarterback in 8, 9. And maybe that's his ceiling as a player. And that's fine. You can win with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't know if that's his ceiling, because I do think when they went to the Super Bowl, I do think he whether he is talent-wise, we can argue, but during that football season, he played like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Agree?
Yeah, he did, but again, that comes to the other stuff. Like I would have told you that year, and I did tell people he's not better than Joe Burrow. He's not better than Josh
Yeah,
Allen.
right. I see what you're saying.
You
Yeah.
know, did they go further? Did he have a better year? Was he number 2 in the yes? But that's again, they're not. It's not Jalen Hurts versus Josh Allen. It's not Jalen Hurts versus Joe Burrow. There's 21 other starters that contribute to a win or a loss, and there's multiple role players after that. So this assumption of quarterback versus quarterback. Now, the if you're talking about just the pure elite quarterbacks, there's probably only 5 of them. And he's not in that category, I would say. And
Give
guys
Lamar
like
in that
Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers were in that category, but probably aren't
Would you put Lamar
now.
Jackson in that category?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Lamar's in it. Lamar's a slam dunk for me. Joe's a slam dunk. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. The one controversial pick, and obviously Patrick Mahomes. The one with a lot of people because he hasn't had the team success is Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
He's just ridiculously talented. And if they ever put it together, and I think they will because I think Jim Harbaugh is a good coach, I think that narrative's going to change pretty quickly. Although he's going to have a short shelf life because nobody likes Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, did you see he's like canceling out music? I'm like, dude, this is the NFL. This isn't college. I think you got to treat these guys a little
it's
bit
going to be a
different.
very short shelf life, but he's going to get that team going in the right direction.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Here's my one gripe with the whole thing. Aaron Rodgers is a better pure football quarterback than Tom Brady, right?
Yes. Well, at his height.
Like I
said,
think talent-wise, I think Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback. But
Yes.
Brady won, obviously, a lot more. I know it's a team game. It's not just a quarterback thing. But I do think Brady possesses some of the traits that maybe Aaron does not, some of those intangible traits that aren't just about dropping back and throwing a football. And to me, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm eagle-colored glasses. Jalen does possess some of those traits, some of the, team will to win type of guy. He's motivated. He's focused. He's, no BS, all that stuff. And I think Jalen has that. So I'm okay with him being a 9th ranked overall quarterback if he wins more games and takes us further than the guys who are ranked in the top 5, but don't ever get the job done.
Well, he's, in my top 5, I can't speak to other top 5s. Most of them have gotten the job done. Patrick, obviously, Joe has been to
Patrick
the
is
Super Bowl.
unbelievable.
Josh has made deep runs.
Well, Josh hasn't gotten the job done, but he's made deep runs, but he's never won the AFC.
Well, it's not his. Like, this is the point. Is it his fault Sean McDermott can't navigate 13 seconds at the end of the game where he's not even on the field?
Right.
Like, that's the kind of stuff. And then you say, well, Josh Allen never won. Well, he had you in a position to win if you had any competency to beat, a great team, a great coach, So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And Lamar's a little bit more difficult because he hasn't played well at times in the playoffs. And that's legitimate, for people that want to go down like Joel Embiid. Here's a great regular season player, keeps coming up small in the playoffs. At some point, Lamar Jackson's going to have to do something, and the same with Justin Herbert. And if you even want to go deeper with somebody like Dak Prescott, I mean, they've had tremendous regular season success, but haven't been able to get it done. At some point, you got to get it done. A lot of times it's not your fault. But, as I said, nobody cares. 13 seconds. That's Sean McDermott. Got nothing to do with Josh Allen. Zero. Other than he lifted them to be at that point with a spectacular performance. But he gets blamed for it.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's always a lot of nuance that goes into all of these things. From a pure talent perspective, I do. agree with what you're saying. And Patrick Mahomes, holy crap, Johnny Mac. Patrick Mahomes is incredible. I thought there would be a little bit of a break before we had somebody that dominated the league like Brady did. And then we got no break. I mean, it was like passing of the torch. Brady beats him in the Super Bowl, and then it was off and running for Patrick Mahomes. So pretty impressive stuff. League's in good hands. A lot of good young quarterbacks in the league. We just talked about them all. We're going to bring our next guest up, Mike Gill, coming up next after the break. For everybody in the YouTube chat, make sure you drop a like on the show. YouTube is showing. Nobody's watching the show, but I got 25 likes, so I know there's somebody watching the show. People are in the chat box. They're out there. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. So I hope everybody is enjoying the show or at least able to view it. I'm not sure if there's tech problems on the viewer side or just on the streaming side, but we'll try and get that worked out, make sure it's working for everybody. So we appreciate everybody being in here. Make sure you drop a like, show YouTube who's boss this morning. So we appreciate it. We'll come back, bring in Mike Gill, our first guest on Birds 365. Stay tuned, everybody.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.